Today we will be exploring the Black Arts Movement by Aidan, Emmett, and Will. We will be looking at the works of Michael Harper, Robert Hayden, and Ted Jones. The Black Arts Movement was a cultural and artistic movement that emerged in the 1960s and 1970s in the United States. It was primarily led by the African American artists, writers, musicians, and intellectuals, and was a significant part of the broader civil rights movement and Black Power movement. Amiri Baraka was one of the key figures in this movement. He was not the sole founder of the movement, but his work, particularly his essays, The Black Arts Movement, played a pivotal role in shaping its ideologies and goals. The Black Arts Movement aimed to empower African Americans to create and define their own cultural and artistic expressions. The movement promoted a strong sense of Black identity and pride, and artists and writers were encouraged to celebrate their African heritage and challenge the negative stereotypes and systemic racism that African Americans had long endured. Basically, it aimed to redefine the roles of African American artists and promote a sense of pride and identity. It contributed to the broader struggle for civil rights and social justice, and left a lasting legacy in American culture and especially the arts. In the background of this slide, I will be playing a song by John Coltrane called Giant Steps. Harper listened to Coltrane growing up, and much of his work are inspired by the rhythm he resonated with in the music. He would later write a poem about Coltrane called Dear John, Dear Coltrane. Michael Harper was born in 1938 in Brooklyn, New York, as the oldest of three children in a low-middle-class family. Although his parents did not have a lot of money, they had an extensive record collection that would influence Harper's writing style. In 1955, he enrolled at Los Angeles City College, initially under a pre-med major until he transferred to literature. Harper wrote about important and historically influential African Americans, including Jackie Robinson, Richard Wright, and John Coltrane. In an interview, he said that the most important thing he learned from musicians was phrasing, the authenticity of phrasing, the transcendence, and spiritual mastery. Harper was known for his distinctive poetic style, which often combined history, jazz, blues, and personal narratives to explore the themes of race, identity, and social justice. In his late years, he taught a literature and writing class at Brown University.
A love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme. Sex fingers toes in the marketplace near your father's church in Hamlet, North Carolina. Witness to this love in this calm fallow of these minds. There is no substitute for pain. Genitals gone or going, seed burned out, you tuck the roots in the earth. Turn back and move by river through the swamps, singing, a love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme. What does it all mean? Loss so great, each black woman expects your failure and mute change, the seed gone. You plod up into the electric city. Your song now crystal and the blues. You pick up the horn with some will and blow into the freezing night. A love supreme, a love supreme. Dawn comes and you cook up the thick sin tween impotence and death. Fuel the tenor sax cannibal heart, genitals and sweat that makes you clean. A love supreme, a love supreme. Why you so black? 'Cause I am. Why you so funky? 'Cause I am. Why you so black? 'Cause I am. Why you so sweet? 'Cause I am. Why you so black? 'Cause I am. A love supreme, a love supreme. So sick you couldn't play Naima. So flat we ached for song you'd concealed with your own blood. Your diseased liver gave out its purity. The inflated heart pumps out the tenor kiss, tenor love. A love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme.
Dear John, Dear Coltrane by Michael S. Harper is a heartfelt and lyrical exploration of love and loss. The poem begins with a vivid portrayal of a marketplace in Hamlet, North Carolina, where love and suffering coexist. The poem's early lines suggest a complex human experience where even in the midst of love, there is expectation of failure and loss. In this calm fallow of these minds, there is no substitute for pain. The poem then shifts its focus to the suffering and loss that Coltrane endured, ultimately leading to his death. The poem weaves the rhythmic qualities of jazz into its structure, mirroring the improvisational and emotionally charged nature of jazz music. The repetition of the phrase, a love supreme, throughout the poem serves as a refrain similar to the refrains in music we listen to. This is also the title of one of John Coltrane's albums, A Love Supreme.
Poet Robert Hayden was born Asa Bunny Sheffley into a poor family in the Paradise Valley neighborhood of Detroit. He had an emotionally traumatic childhood and was raised in part by foster parents. Due to extreme nearsightedness, Hayden preferred books rather than sports in his childhood. After graduating from high school in 1932, he attended Detroit City College on scholarship and later earned a graduate degree in English literature from the University of Michigan. As a teaching fellow, he was the first black faculty member in Michigan's English department. Hayden eventually became the first African American to be appointed as consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress. Robert Hayden's poetry is known for its emotional depth and its exploration of complex themes. His contributions to the American literature and his role as an African American poet have left a lasting impact on the world of poetry. Here's a quick list of books that he wrote. Heart Shaped in the Dust, which was written in 1940. Figure of Time, 1955. A Ballad of Remembrance, 1962. Word in the Morning Time, 1970. Night, Morning, 1976. American Journal, 1978. Angle of Ascent, New and Selected Poems, 1975. Collected Poems, 1985. And then a quote that I chose from Robert Hayden is, the imagination is the key to poetry, and without it, poetry is nothing. And without imagination, poetry becomes just words on a page, lacking the beauty, depth, and transformative power that it can possess. On another note, this quote also speaks to the value of imagination in art and literature as a whole, showing its role in creativity and human capacity to connect with and understand the world in a profound way. And the poem by Robert Hayden I chose is called This Winter Sundays.
Here is a poem that comes directly out of my boyhood in Detroit, and it's called Those Winter Sundays. Sundays, too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made bank fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the coals splintering breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him who had driven out the coal, and polish my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices?
Those is called This Winter Sundays. Those Winter Sundays. In Those Winter Sundays, Robert Hayden explores themes of love, sacrifice, and the passage of time. The poem serves as a sad reminder of the often unrecognized and unspoken acts of love and devotion that exist within families. It highlights the importance of understanding and appreciating these gestures, even when they may not fully be understood when they happen. As the poem progresses, Hayden reflects on how he failed to fully appreciate or understand his father's efforts at the time. He acknowledges that he took his father's sacrifices for granted and did not recognize the love and care behind those actions. The poem ends with a sense of regret as Hayden realizes the depth of his father's love and the emotional distance that existed between them. This poem, Those Winter Sundays, can be connected to the Black Arts Movement through its exploration of personal and family history, as well as its depiction on social and economic issues faced by Black individuals and families. While not a racial poem in the style of some Black Arts Movement works, it still contributes to a broader conversation about African American identity and experiences. And there were 2 awards that he won for this poem, and they were the Grand Prize for Poetry at the First World Festival of Black Arts and the Consultant in Poetry to the Library of Congress.
Born July 4th, 1928 in Cairo, Illinois. He passed away April 25th, 2003 in Vancouver, Canada. Ted Jones was an influential African-American jazz poet, painter, and trumpeter known for his energetic performances. Born in Cairo, Illinois, Jones studied at Indiana University, then moved to New York City in the 1950s, where he became a very well-known and respected figure in the Beat Generation literary and art scenes. He later did a lot of traveling and traveled throughout various countries such as France, Spain, and Morocco. Throughout his career, Jones had many inspirations. His poetry was deeply rooted in jazz, African culture, and surrealism. Jones was a successful writer, producing numerous poetry collections, including funky jazz poems and black powwow jazz poems. His work often explored the themes of race, identity, and culture, blending these themes with a unique sense of humor and rhythm. Throughout his career, Jones collaborated with many artists, musicians, and writers, leaving a lasting impact on the Beat Generation and the counterculture movements. He continued to perform and create art until his death in Vancouver. Jones' legacy lives on through his poetry, which continues to inspire readers and artists around the world. He has also won the American Book Awards Lifetime Achievement Award. In this slide, I'm going to be playing for you a short clip of one of Jones's poems, originally titled The Poet, but later changed to The Truth.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Simon, for the introduction. And I dig the Amsterdam people. You know, he's something else. You swing. You didn't know that, did you? Even though you don't wear plumping, still swing. This first poem I'd like to read is a poem. Always take the glasses off for the photographers so I won't look like the rest of them. This first poem I'd like to read is a poem dedicated to all the poets all over the world. The title of the poem is The Poet. If you should see a man walking down a crowded street, talking aloud to himself, don't run in the opposite direction, but run towards him, for he is a poet. You have nothing to fear from the poet but the truth.
When first looking at this poem, you can see that it is written in a unique format that appears formless and unintentional at first glance. But if you take a closer look at it, you can see the intentional placement of the line breaks that signify a lot of purpose and meaning. The word aloud is capitalized to emphasize a specific point, indicating a self-addressed statement rather than one to everyone. If you were to first look at it, you would think he was speaking aloud to everyone, but after a little bit of suspense and a very well-placed line break, you can see it is not to everyone, it is just to himself in the following line. In the poem, Jones has a lot of opposites that conflict direction with each other that help add depth and complexity to the reader's interpretation of the poem. In this poem, it is very apparent of the jazz music's influence on Jones's writing, mirroring its very powerful yet harmonious composition, just as jazz music combines various instruments to create a balanced symphony of sound. This poem assembles words into a very harmonious blend, forming almost a poetic masterpiece. In this same video clip of him reading the poem, afterwards, an audience member tries to clap for him, and this is a quote from him reacting to the fan clapping. Nah, man. Keep your claps to yourself. I don't need that. This helps emphasize Bam's pessimistic view on African Americans' rights and their struggle, as he is doing this for the greater good of the cause, and it doesn't have anything to do with himself. He is looking for change, and he is looking to stand up for what is right. He is not doing this for his own glory.
Now we're going to be going through a quick Zuhitsu. Standing up for what's yours. I'll be playing lo-fi music in the back, just like Mr. Brown likes it. I'll give you 2 minutes for each prompt. We're actually going to do 45 seconds per prompt. Five seconds. Now on to the next one. Five more seconds. Five more seconds. Next one. Five more seconds. Moving on. Five more seconds. Next one. Moving on. Five more seconds. And that will conclude our zoo hit 2.